Hey everyone, Sina here. Today I'm going to be bringing you my updated Maehwa succession guide. Just a quick disclaimer, I don't claim to be good at making guides. This guide is just going to be like, it's just going to give you a rough idea of what Arca has to offer, and yeah. So to start off, I'm going to quickly go over some of our skills. Um, as for our protections, we have Backstep Slash, which is forward guard. We have Whirlwind Cut, which is super armor. We have Debite, which is frontal guard. We have Red Moon, which is frontal guard. We have Evasive Stub, which is iframe. We have Slow Cast Blooming, which is iframe. We have eBuff, which is super armor. Stigma is super armor until the stab. We have Sticky, which is super armor. Retail, which is frontal guard. Chase, which is um, I'd say on cooldown, iframe off cooldown. Obviously it's very unreliable, extremely unreliable. The iframe almost never works, but we have Tiger Blade iframe, and we have Blooming Stride and Blooming Step frontal guard. As for our CCs, we have a Blind Thrust, which is a stiff. We have Backstep, which is a stun. We have Nemesis Slash, which is a float. We have Blind Slash, which is a float. We have Whirlwind Cut, Last Hit, which is a stiff. We have Carver, which is a float, and Carver Typhoon, which is a KD. We have Decap, which is a stun. We have Debite, which is a stiff. Lunar Slash is a float. Red Moon is a float. Ascension to Heaven is a float. Stub, or Absolute Stub is a stiff. Double and triple shot are also stiffs. We have Charge Stub, which is a stiff if you cancel it, and a knockback without cancellation, and Blooming, which is a stun. Stigma Stiff. We have Retaliation KD, and our kicks. So we don't really use Blunt and Sweep Kick, we just have the KD on Roundhouse and the floating on Upper Kick. You could use, I guess, the bound on Sweep Kick if you want, but it's not really necessary. Um, and we also have floating on Crimson Gust. It is also good to note that we have down smashes on both Backstep Slash and Carver on the second hit. So, firstly for combos, I'm not really going to go like too deep into this because um, Maehwa has a lot of room for combos. Like she can kind of create a combo off of like any stiff or CC like with any cooldowns that are off, and it'll probably work. But I'll just show you the combo that I use, which is purely high damage. It works. It's the best combo versus evasion, and arguably the best combo versus DR as well. So I'll just get into it. Um, so you start off with a stiff, or just you can just go straight into Carver, I guess, if you catch him with Carver. But combo goes Carver into Blooming into Decap into Sticky into Blind Slash into Decap into Sticky, and you go D-Bite, Red Blade D-Bite into Stigma Sticky. So one thing to know is you need to have one pedal to do this combo, otherwise you just have to change the ending of it. So it'll look something like this. So it'll look something like that. Um, it's important to note that you can't actually perform the second float in the combo if you're slowed, just because the timing window is like very short between when they get up and when you actually use your float. So one way you can fix that is you can instead of using sticky after decap after blooming, you just remove sticky and go straight into your float. Or if you wanna compensate, you can also go roundhouse, kick into blind slash, so it'll look something like this. So right there, I didn't have one pedal, so I couldn't actually do the combo correctly. But I'll get into like what you can do um, instead of that in a second. So if you don't have a pedal, um, you can kind of just like do whatever. Like, so let's say I just did the combo and it's uh it's where I'm supposed to do red blade debite. Like you can really do whatever. You can do like carver sticky, stigma sticky, and it'll be fine. And you can just carver sticky again. Doesn't really matter. Usually they'll be dead by then unless you're fighting like a really geared opponent. In which case like having the red blade debite is really important because of the shred on evasion that it provides. So that's one thing to note. Um, Again, I won't really be going into combos too much because Maehwa doesn't really have an issue comboing, so you kind of just learn that as you play the class. Um, as for large scale, our most threatening combo that we can do, um, I'll show it in a second, but the idea behind it is you stay about as protected as you can with the highest burst of damage, um, and pretty much allows you to pick off weak targets, or I mean, I guess that's really it. Like, you kind of just dive in, you do a lot of damage, and you get profit. So it'll look something like this. So let's say you're flanking your opponent's right there, and you want to pick them off. So what you do is you do this. So pretty much there, your only threat in that entire combo is getting CC'd out of Stigma into Blooming, and you also want to have Sticky up for that, so you can cancel Blooming as fast as possible. If you don't have as much AP, you can go for a riskier combo, which instead of canceling Blooming with Sticky immediately, you can do Blooming decap Sticky. So it is a little bit more risky because you are unprotected for a longer period of time, but it works. You can also, if you really have a lot of AP, something really good to note is that we in our class have a lot of damage that comes from air attacks. So using or doing something such as cover blind slash decap sticky does a lot of damage. Like it does a lot of damage. If they don't have a lot of AP, that or sorry DP, like with my gear, I have 286 AP. It'll it'll do like probably 80% of somebody's health at like 327 DP, I would say. Maybe not 80, maybe like a little less, like 70. But after that, you could just follow it up with like I don't know, like a Stigma Sticky. It'll usually kill. Or if you really want to, you could do Stigma Blooming Sticky after that. So that's one thing to note. Um, let's see what else we have here. I mean, that's kind of really it. For combos, I guess. I mean, I I guess I should explain um like our prevalence with down smashes in our kit, but it's not really important. You're not really gonna use down smash like down smashes aren't really gonna like make or break like how good you are at the class, so it doesn't really matter. But pretty much, if you want to do a CC reset, you can combine either the KD on uh, roundhouse kick and retaliation, or where is it? Cover typhoon, which is right here. Um, you could also combine it with a stun and a KD, preferably. Um, but yeah. I guess if I could give a tip, for down smashes, it would be like you can cancel Redmond with Carver immediately, and it goes into the second hit of Carver, so you don't have to worry about like, um, messing up your floats or whatever. But that doesn't really matter. Like you could just do Carver into backstep slash. Usually you'll never have an issue like doing that. So that's just if you're using Redmond in the middle of a combo for like damage or something. So that's that. Um, so as for engages, um, or I guess hold on. I should explain one thing. Hold on. So one thing I should explain is that there is some debate, I guess, over which blind throws you should use. I personally recommend absolute blind thrust because in PvP at least, obviously not in PvE, but it allows you to get away with or it allows it allows your opponents to not be able to get away with as much as they would be able to if you had prime blind thrust. Um, Simply because prime is just slower and it's more predictable, and you can't really make as much use out of it as you can with absolute blind thrust. So it's just much stronger in that regard, because it's just quicker. So like main argument for using blind thrust is like comboing and like movement, but like you don't really you really don't need prime blind thrust as like a combo tool. It's really not that good. Like it's kind of more of like a habit thing than anything. As for movement, that's probably like the best argument against it, or I mean for it. But um, due to like movement such as arrow grapple, which is really reliable and has longer distance than prime blind thrust, there's almost like no reason you should give up a little bit of movement for uh, less catching potential, essentially. So as for engages, hold on. Cooldown 5. As for engages, we have a few ways, like go-to ways to engage. But to be honest, unless you're like really geared and just better than your opponent, you're not really going to be um, engaging as much, I suppose, um, as much as your opponent does. Because most of our tools in our kit are like punish tools. We don't really like run at our opponent because we just run out of stamina that way, and we get put in a shittier position by doing that. So, um, one of our best methods to engage is using grapple arrow in succession. So, um, whether it be like directly because you want to just grapple arrow and chase behind them and debite, or be it like just moving around like literally anywhere. You could use it as a quick method of trying to like pull off a blind thrust catch like this. Um, you could use it to put yourself in a better position by just like moving around. So just like this. Um, yeah. This is not really an engage, but, or I mean, on the topic of engages, I'll talk about using grapple arrow as a disengage by turning your camera around. It's really useful. You can also technically use it as a disengage if you predict when your opponent is gonna like run at you, and you just grapple arrow, and like while they're like dashing toward you. So that's nice. Otherwise, like, we have just like chase cancel into blind thrust engage. We have just like sideways stigma engage, or just regular stigma, it doesn't really have to be sideways engage. Um, we have a lot of bait methods that can turn into engages, so like whirlwind cut into blind thrust, or maybe red moon into stigma into whirlwind cut into blind thrust, because I'm fully on there. But stuff like that. Mainly you just want to have a presence in the fight. Just having good positioning will bring you like quote unquote engages, I guess. It's not more like, yeah, it's not more about chasing your opponent. It's just like putting yourself in a position where you're ready to punish their mistakes, essentially. So, oh yeah, there's obviously blooming step as well for movement. But like realistically, you shouldn't really be worrying about using blooming step for movement. At least in the sense that like it's not necessary movement. Like you'll be fine without it. I personally use blooming stride because the 50% slow is extremely useful in certain matchups, and you don't really like. The only reason I would ever recommend using blooming step, like after the blooming stride changes, would be like uh, if you wanted to apply like a DP debuff to your opponent to SA trade, but that's not really relevant anymore, just because we can run just minus DP add-ons on a lot of skills, so it's a lot less important than it was before. But now just using like Blooming Stride as a slow, like an AoE slow, and just capitalizing off of that, it's just a lot better. So I also forgot to mention that Decapitating Cyclone is a floating and Decapitating Dragon is a stun, so just one thing to note. Let's see, what else can I speak for movement? So utilizing chase cancel in a way that it doesn't hinder your stamina to the point where you just die can be really useful. Like you don't want to spam chase cancel for no reason, but if you can like figure out an opportunity in battle where you just get put in a better position by using it, it's pretty worthwhile, like just using it. So that's one thing, but mainly you're going to be using chase, like if you want to like really be good at Maehwa and improve your skills, you're going to be using chase cancel with blind thrust to make the most use of being quick, I guess. So that's kind of really it for like the tips I can give for engages. Mainly when you're engaging, just make sure like you're not putting yourself in a bad position, and you're not really giving your opponent a lot of room to punish you, and that's kind of like just the basis you should go off of. So as for stamina management, we don't really have a lot of issues with stamina anymore, at least. We used to have a lot of issues before a few changes, but now like the thing that really did it was backstep slash being an FG. We now have a linger FG that doesn't cost stamina. Obviously, aside from Red Moon, we can actually use this quite often just to like start getting back stamina. So let's say I'm like using a lot of stamina and I'm being pressured by my opponent. you can combine Stigma with Backstep Slash and Linger it, and you regen a lot of stamina that way. And Stigma and Backstep Slash are in really short cooldowns, so you kind of have to make the most use of it as you can. Um, so like for like the only real issues we would have in terms of stamina is if we're like severely outgeared, or we're fighting like a class like warrior, which you wouldn't normally have stamina issues either unless you get slowed, because you can utilize air grapple passively. But mainly just being wary of your stamina and not overdoing it is just kind of like the key, I guess, to not lose stamina. So it sounds really stupid, but like you just kind of have to realize what movements you do are too much and like aren't making an impact in the fight. Like if you're just constantly dashing like this for absolutely no reason and like moving around like this and like trying to throw everything you can at your opponent, like obviously you're doing something wrong, right? Like you're doing a lot of wasteful things. If you could just play back, utilize your Q block, utilize your stamina regaining abilities, using arrow grapple, and making sure to like monitor like how much stamina you're actually using and shit like that. It really shouldn't be that much of an issue regarding stamina. So I guess that's all I could really give in terms of stamina. If you're still having like a lot of issues with stamina, I would recommend trying a more passive playstyle, just like being really like chill and like being like very composed. So like chasing, Q blocking, being wary of like what your opponent can punish, in terms of like when you're stationary and Q blocking and stuff like that. So just be careful of that, and kind of utilizing like that kind of a technique will probably help you um, get better stamina management. Um, so kind of touched on this a bit, but um, stamina or like frontal management. So like using Stigma into backstep slash, or like whirlwind cut into backstep slash and lingering it, or lingering debite, or like, you know, just using your frontals pretty much. Since we don't really have iframes to dodge like abilities that do damage, we have to make use of frontals. And especially when we're low on stamina, we couldn't in the past like really get away with a lot, because we would end up like needing to go like retreat, and we would just die in SA chase, like from an ability or something like that. But now we can always linger backstep slash. We can use skills like Red Moon, I guess, passively, but we could always do that. But it's more of like a combination of those things. Utilizing those like versus higher AP opponents will like greatly help you. So yeah, just be mindful of like lingering debite and just using backstep slash a lot more for the FG, because it's really useful. And that's kind of really all I have to give you. If you're having troubles like to high AP players just dying through your stuff, you kind of just need to work on like looking at your opponent's skills, what skills do a lot of damage, like reading when they use them, and um, utilizing your FGs in a way that will soak up like some of the damage and not put you in a shittier position than you already are. So that's one thing to note. Um, so for essay trading, I don't think I went over this, but obviously we have our essay on D-Bite, we have our essay on Red Moon, Red Blade, or Red Blade, Red Moon, and we have our Carver FG. Well, I mean, you can obviously linger if you want, but so with the add-ons I currently run, which I'll put in the description, I run minus 15 DP on Carver. So combined with the already 15 DP that um, that is applied when you use it, it's minus 30 DP. So it's pretty important to when you're essay trading to apply that on your opponent so that they get a lot of DP debuffs on them when you like prior to you using abilities on them. When you're essay trading, you kind of want to, obviously if it's versus a grab class, you're gonna need to be really mindful of like how easy it is for them to punish you, since all of our essays are stationary, or our essay damage is stationary. So it's going to be a lot difficult to pull off, but it's really hard to give like tips on it. It's more of like use like Red Blade versus specific class and like learn what you can and can't do versus them. The best thing, maybe the best tip I can give is like not not overdoing it. Like you don't need to like throw out every single skill you have at once, like literally every single skill like at this very instant, because when you spam like a lot of skills that do damage, especially because you're probably going to be like using blooming and using sticky off cooldown if you're trying to trade and stuff like that, you don't want to like overdo it because you become really predictable and it's really easy to punish you that way. So you just kind of need to like explore your opponent and the class you're fighting to make sure you know like what you can and can't do essentially. So that's I guess all I can give on essay trading. Just be cautious and just learn what you can and can't do, and don't like overdo it, I guess is the best way to put it. Um, and I guess last thing I'll go over is like baiting. So we have a few like good baits that we can use in our kit. I won't go over all of them. I'll go over some really good ones that work a lot of the time. So versus classes that actually get affected by movement speed, using Whirlwind Cut and following up with like just a backstep slash to their face after they try to like hit you or something, usually works pretty well. You can also do like Red Moon and cancel it instantly and go like straight into a backstep or a blind thrust. So doing that will kind of hit your opponent off guard a lot of times. It's really good versus classes like Sork and even Maehwa, like mirror matchups. They're just honestly like any class that utilizes Q block, like literally any class. It's just like really like can't really predict it unless you've done it multiple times now. But it's a good bait. You could also use evasive sub to bait, but I wouldn't recommend that because it's just a garbage skill. It doesn't work a lot of the times because of the servers. So see if I can think of anything off the top of my mind. you can use I mean, I guess that's really it. Like, you kind of just like find what you can and can't do again with baits. Um, and like during a fight, you'll see like maybe you'll be able to trap your opponent somehow by utilizing a certain skill. So yeah, I mean, it's pretty much all I have, I guess, in terms of a guide. If there's anything else I want to go over. Um, I guess I could go over like things that people probably don't know about. Um, for example, hold on. Okay, I already got my Oldman book. I'll just unlevel retaliation for now. So you can cancel or you can use decap off of Carver Typhoon. Oh, didn't work for some reason. Oh, it's locked. Um, so you could do that. I don't like doing it because it messes up my combo that I showed earlier in the video. Because you can't do the second part of, you can't cancel the second part of Carver into blooming when you have it unlocked, but you can do like other combos with it, so you don't necessarily have to lock it if you don't want to use the combo that I use. So that's one thing to note. You can cancel, or yeah, you can go from D-bite into decap. That's kind of cool, I guess. You could use it sometimes for something. Let's see. Um, I mean, obviously it cancels like Stigma, Whirlwind Cut, and Stigma Backstep Slash have uses. Should be like pretty like self-explanatory already. You can cancel, oops, you can cancel Carver, or you can cancel Backstep Slash from Carver, which is useful. You can you can use either debite from like not very high cliffs like that to fall off without getting the full animation. You can also use whirlwind cut using the left side to do the same thing. You could also use blooming step. A good way to use it if you want to go down really fast is you can also use blooming stride, but blooming step is just better, I think. You can do debite into blooming step and you'll get down really quickly. Oh yeah, you can also cancel debite into blooming step and use that in a fight, but it's not like super good. It's good in PvX, but not really good in a duel. Oh yeah. The decapitating cyclone has a pretty large hit radius. What I mean by that is like from the point of impact, the tornado kind of explodes and it has like a pretty wide like range of where it can hit. So it makes it useful for like flanking and just knocking down a lot of people on the ball. So I'll mention a few more baits that you can use that are pretty helpful. You can bait people in with Swordblade Debite and then using backstep slash for the slow. You can also bait them in and use it for the knockback at the end of it. It has a lot of range, so it's pretty useful. Like Carver. You can also something I've been trying to learn lately is not learn lately, but get better at it because it's pretty hard. to get used to is like whenever you like um you just get like sticky um or whirlwind cut or like just like most like stationary skills, like maybe even blooming stride, um you can actually blind thrust like right after you do it. So for example, like this, you blind thrust like as soon as you finish the skill, and this can catch a lot of opponents off guard because a lot of times people will be predicting the chase into blind thrust instead of just a literal just FBT from an SA. So you could do like that. Um, you could do like, oh yeah, hold on. You could do this as well. You could do it with just like a lot of skills, but as you can see, it's like pretty hard to do. Just because it's really wonky. That's why it takes a lot of practice, but it's not super hard to do. I'm not running on full screen right now, so I'm gonna blame the fact that I'm not getting good frames as the reason I can't do it consistently, but um yeah, that's that. Um yeah, just wanted to put those in the video because when I was recording it at the start, I couldn't really like think of any debates off the top of my mind except like two. So yeah, hope you guys enjoyed the video. Um, Again, you can message me on Discord if you have any questions. I tried to make this guide like pretty broad, um, just because if I went into like every single situation like that I could have went into, it would have just taken like so long to actually record, and the video is already long enough already. So um, yeah, just let me know if you have any questions. Yeah, that's it. Later.